My son was in Cub Scouts, and my son ID was in Cub Scouts, and Betty C. was the den mother. And so she invited us to come to church, and we hadn't decided on a church. We hadn't lived there too long on Kings Highway, and so we came to school, because that's where church was then, in West Ridge School. And so we came to West Ridge School and started a church, and I've come ever since.
Well, in 1959, we moved from Kansas City to 3807 Kings Highway, and that is when I started 4th grade at West Ridge Elementary. And my brother was in 3rd grade, and he started Cub Scouts with Betty C. And so it was our connection with the C's and the school, and the fact that we had moved out to the country from the city, and so we were looking for a church, and Mother didn't drive. My dad traveled a lot, and so we needed the closest church, and the Methodist church seemed to be quite fine.
ID went through Cub Scouts, and then the next step, Webelos, and then he joined the Cub Scout group that was here, and I think it was Scout Dan 33, I believe, and he went all the way through to Eagle. And at that time, Reverend Christian was the minister, and he said he didn't want to preach in a church that did not have a Cub Scout.
I remember being confirmed at this church, and at that time the parsonage was immediately across the street, and we had our confirmation class in the basement of the parsonage. And I can remember Bible schools, and we used the basement of the parsonage a lot, as well as the church building. We had quite a few children at that time, and this was a growing community, and we changed pastors fairly often, as we still seem to. I remember our first pastor was Reverend Johnson, and then we had a Reverend Darby. And I believe Reverend Darby was the pastor when I was confirmed, and that was a really special time for me. And then I was married in this church in 1972. We've had lots of joys, and then when my father died in 2000, his funeral was here. So that was. But it was a blessing to be able to have his memorial service and here with our church family. And so this church has been an important part of our life as long as I can remember.
Excellent. And the both of you have been an important part of this church, so I appreciate you taking time. Anything else you'd like to say? Or?
Well, you had 3 daughters married here.
Yeah.
Of the 5 children, the 3 daughters were married in the sanctuary, upstairs in the same dress, but not at the same time. We all wore the same dress. I got to choose it. So I wore it, and then Sandy wore it, and then Denise wore it.
They had different veils, though.
Yeah.
It changed it a bit.
And I was just reviewing, and I would love to meet, or have met anyway, the treasurer that was there in 1961, because I'm current treasurer now, and I'm looking over these numbers. And, you know, I think the current pastor at that time must have got ripped off, because he only made $1,460 a year.
Wow.
And now, I won't even tell you what our budget is now, but here in 63, it talks about that to meet our obligations, each family would have to contribute $3.65 a week to meet their obligations. And their annual budget was $15,000. And our budget now is $110,000. So 50 years makes a big difference.
I'll say.
Well, it does. It makes a big difference with the budget and all, but we haven't changed a bit
Not at all.
No.
in 50 years. In
I
fact,
mean, Steve, I can still remember you when you're knee-high to a grasshopper.
You haven't changed a bit, really, Steve.
no, you really
Thanks.
haven't.
And you still have all your hair.
Yeah, guys, we are at church.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Oh, I guess we
So
should.
I can remember that I did look up to all of you ladies, because I had to, because you guys were much older than
We're not that much older.
Yeah.
Well, you know, what can you say?
But I looking through all these pictures and came across this one before this whole front part was added on. And I remember this little balcony that we had when we came right out of the
You
sanctuary.
know what I remember about that? I remember
I'm
the
telling you
boys.
what I remember.
Well, I know, but I remember the boys spitting over the top.
Oh, that's why I always stayed on top.
That's exactly right.
And that's why all the ladies are wearing hats in these pictures too, I think. It's
Probably
when
because of
those
birds
boys.
too. But anyway.
But the church has changed physically a lot in 50 years.
When I remember a lot of things that we don't necessarily to do and do today, and that is one of the things was the haunted houses.
Oh, yeah.
Those
Do
are
you remember those?
They were scary.
Eyeballs.
Those grapes.
They had eyeballs.
Oh,
They had brains.
You
yes.
still have brains?
Well,
There was a
Oh,
few.
okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch the brains.
Yeah, you were smart that way.
I always was.
She's very prim and
Smart
proper.
one.
Yeah,
Yes.
Very prim and proper.
Did you see, she's the only child. She got away with murder.
Hey, do you remember the Easter egg hunts? And that hasn't changed too much because there were still
Still
billions
have Easter
and
eggs.
billions of eggs.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah,
kind of,
big golden egg. I remember the big golden egg.
And I
that you
never
would
could find it.
That's
Yeah,
because-
Me neither.
Yeah,
Oh,
Steve always got it.
Yeah, he was the
He
youngest,
always
you're
pushed
right.
us out of the way.
Well, that's
Yeah.
Yeah, he was-
I don't remember it that way at all. I remember you guys wouldn't talk to me because you were older
well, you
Well,
didn't
you're
talk
wiser
to them.
than
and wiser, I guess.
Well, you
I
had
guess.
babies.
I remember the vacation Bible schools.
Yes.
And I remember being out back, the different classes. I remember, my favorite part was playing the games, and there was, I liked Red Rover because, I was kind of a big guy for my age. So I was good at that. Conversely, I also remember the game that I wasn't very good at, and that was Simon Says, and I think that's probably because I'm not very good at following directions. But I remember distinctly those games and looking forward to those games at Vacation Bible
What
School.
about the craft stuff?
Oh, yeah, I like the
What did
crap.
you say about you made banners?
Well, I
or
remember
something?
one year at Vacation Bible School, we actually met across the way at the Bowie's house. And your mom was in charge of my Vacation Bible School class that year. And we made those red banners that were made out of felt, and we had different things we put on. They hung in the sanctuary for years and years, and I wished I could remember what they were, but they're really cool. And I remember, even when I was into my 30s, they were still up in the sanctuary, and I can remember, very distinctly that I made those in the Bowie's basement years and years ago.
Isn't it cool?
it is cool.
What about the choir? How many of you sang in the choir?
I did.
Yeah, and I couldn't carry a tune.
I was asked not
No, you can't.
But you remember look at all these people in this choir. This was in '86. But
Oh, somebody else has got a picture.
Yeah, and
There's-
actually, I think I've got one where I don't know how many kids are in this photo. I don't know if you can get this, but really had a few more children in those days.
There was a lot of energy
Well,
in Sunday school, I
we
remember.
were the baby boomers.
Yeah, there was a bunch of us.
We had a classroom for each grade.
Yeah.
Let's just think about that for just a minute.
It's time to sing. Come on.
Oh,
She's sing.
don't tell me she's shy again.
She's not.
But she's got the best
At the
voice.
pencil.
Where's
I know.
She's got the best
I got the
voice.
best voice.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Oh, I never heard it from someone. Where is Steve?
Steve.
I hear him.
He's crying again.
Hi, baby.
Okay.
He is the youngest.
Sing Jesus loves me. No.
Oh, not singing that.
All the little children. Jesus loves the little children. Jesus loves the little children. All the children of the world. Red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in His sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. Hey, no wait.
Through the years, it's been a lot of in the first years of the church, most of the members were of the same age, pretty close, in their early 30s, with small children. So we had lots of parties, lots of fun together, as well as work, to grow and earn money. But it was fun because we were all of the same age and enjoyed the same thing, especially Halloween parties. They were they were something. We had some weird costumes.
Yeah, we did.
When you're,
Pardon me?
well, just when you're younger, you'll do that,
Well, yeah, when you refer to the Halloween, of course, a number of incidents come to mind. One was one of our members was a local photographer, and he made an appearance at Halloween night, and of course the church fellowship hall was by candlelight, pretty much dark, but there was a knock at the door, and there stood Joe, wrapped in as a mummy.
complete
You couldn't see nothing but his eyes
head to toe.
and the place or his nostrils. But then he just said nothing, just walked in, and
Took us a
some of the
long
people
time.
were
We didn't even know
no,
who
we
he
didn't
was.
know who it was. Another Halloween, and it could have been the same one, but Bill Geiger had come up early and left his wife, but he had made a coffin, and he put his wife in there, and I think the party wasn't even starting until like 6:30 or 7 o'clock, but he brought her up there about 5 o'clock, and she was in the coffin with a candelabra, and I'm not sure whether they had music playing or not, but that was
When you walked
That was pretty
in,
good.
that's what you saw, was a coffin. And she lay there still the whole time until they...
That's some method acting.
But there were just so many fun things at the Halloween parties too, but other times.
well, you're talking about money-making projects. In our early years, we were pretty much in debt with a church and with 88 members. And so we were doing whatever we could to earn extra money and to pay our apportionments and so forth. And again, one of our church members happened to be a manager of a local grocery store. And at Christmas time, we would sell Christmas trees. And it was a fun job, but it was a hard job. But of course, a holiday season like that, the people are all in a good mood and they enjoy picking out trees for them. Well, what do you think of this one? Well, I think that a little flat on one side, but anyway, that along with well, we had fish fries to try
Chili
and earn money,
suppers.
chili suppers.
Bazaars, you know, all
Yeah.
anything to earn money. We even sold tiles. The altar area was tiled, and we sold a tile to each family, you know, that wanted to buy a tile. So we own
Well, we own three.
3 little squares up there at the altar that are covered with carpeting now.
I refer to one other thing, and that's something that I'm proud of, and I'm sure Joida is too, for herself, is that in 1989, I was given a plaque from the church as the first
Good Samaritan.
Good Samaritan of the church. And I cherish that plaque and have it there mounted in the wall right there where we see it every day. And Joida was awarded the same award in 1995. So each
Took
of
me a
us.
while.
But anyway,
It was a nice custom to have the Good Samaritan Awards. It really was, because then it shows that you've gone outside and worked with others,
Right.
helped others, and he certainly has.
well, I had retired in 1985, and there were a number of elderly people in the church and needed help in various ways, and I'm more than glad to do that.
And he continued it with neighbors and area, you know,
Oh yeah, I
he's always
still do that.
worked with neighbors too.
Celebration, clap your hands, clap your hands. God is great, we praise our God with song. God is great, we praise our God. Celebration, clap your hands, clap your hands. Sing a song of celebration, clap your hands, clap your hands. Clap your hands. Sing a new song of celebration, clap your hands, clap your hands. Sing a new song of celebration. That's it.